Okay, so we've done future work. Let's deal with the public image. So, public image. Again, I'll just remind you, we're here to discuss the case for having this course, the reason why the course exists, why we're reflective engineers. So we've dealt with future work skills, now we're going to deal with the public image. There's no question that the engineering profession image has declined in the public domain. Mainly to do with things like environmental damage, dark, satanic, that was the term used in the 19th century Britain, factories. Of course, much of this is not true. It's truly not the role, not the work of the engineers, but often the word engineering and engineering is associated with these negative images. And remember, perception is reality. Whether it's true or not doesn't change the fact that if people perceive it, that's the reality of it. The other thing about the public image is it's socially inept. Socially, as I mentioned earlier, awkward. Male dominated. Cartoons, there's lots of cartoons of engineers. Nerds. Thick glasses. And by the way, if anybody has thick glasses, there's nothing wrong with it. But this is the perception that those with the thick glasses are nerdy, are overly academic. Again, it's image. These are, if you were to break it down and do an analysis of this, it's somewhat silly, but it's public image. Calculators, used to be slide rules, pens in shirt pocket. Inward, socially inward. Again, these are broad perceptions. No fashion, short pants, halfway up around their ankles, shirts hanging out, odd socks. These have been the perceptions of engineers over the last 50 years. In Western society, in Britain, for example, it's a particularly bad image. It's perceived as oily rag, overalls. Not that there's anything wrong with people who do maintenance work, but it's all about fixing things. Basically the work of trades and technicians. For example, the people in the UK who put up the satellite dish on a roof with a screwdriver and a ladder will often be called satellite engineers. And of course, in the great universities like University of Toronto, we have an aerospace institute where satellite engineers have all got PhDs, bachelor's, master's, and PhDs, and 30 years experience designing spacecraft, etc. So the term engineer in the UK has absolutely no connection to the work of what you would call the professional engineers. And it's causing huge social problems for the engineering profession. And indeed with the UK, in the 19th century, British engineers were perceived as the heroes. Stevenson, Telford, Brunel, these were perceived as the hero society, virtuous. Quality of life, bringing a great quality of life. But this has all declined in the 20th century. We'll be exploring why. There's lots of academic papers, lots of research that explores the reason behind this. And that's going to be one of our themes. The way engineering culture, etc., has declined in the 20th century. There was an article in the Professional Engineering magazine from the Institution of Mechanical Engineers UK where engineers were perceived as similar to Rain Man, who was an autistic person, if you remember. Rain Man, he was autism, and that was Dustin Hoffman, acted the part. So engineers have often been perceived as slightly socially inadequate. The other perception is engineers are perceived as mile wide, inch deep. Engineers have been perceived as inch deep, so know a very great deal about a very narrow topic, but know very little about the broader issues. And that's why this is called the mile wide. So this would have be the societal issues, and this would be the technical. So engineers are perceived to fit in this domain and only be interested in that domain. The other thing too is that, I'll just put it here, rhetorical skills, the ability to speak, argue and debate, are dampened by, they're dulled or dampened by an engineering education and science. So there's, an engineering education. So the university system that produces engineers is actually dulling the skills of engineers from rhetoric, from debate, from public speaking, etc. Okay, so that ends number 2, public image. Next, we're going to talk about recruitment, why recruitment matters and how we're going to address that issue.